Alright guys, I am back with another horror room movie review, and this is Wrong Turn 5, Bloodlines. Now I know this video is going up really late, but I'm going to catch up by doing Jeepers Creepers this afternoon, that way I'm all caught up on these horror movie reviews. But Wrong Turn 5, this one came out in October of this year. It's the last movie in the Wrong Turn franchise. Came out right around Halloween, and it's a sequel to the prequel. Now, I know a lot of people like this one better than 4. I don't see how. I thought there was a lot of stuff in this movie that just didn't make any sense. Like, for example, it's supposed to be a sequel to the prequel. So what era does this take place in? Because they have a payphone next to the jail, yet they use cell phones in the movie. And it has to take place much earlier than Wrong Turn 1 because Maynard is younger. So it's kind of confusing with the timeline. But there's a lot of other stuff with that timeline that I'm going to mention later. So, anyways, it starts off Fair Lake, West Virginia. It says it was established in 1814. The entire population disappeared in 1817. No one knows why. The movie starts off with a sex scene. Of course it does. Billy and Cruz are having sex in a tent. Their friends show up dressed as cannibals and scare them. It's Halloween and the town is having the Mountain Man Festival. So it's this music festival where everybody comes and dresses up like the cannibals and hangs out, gets high or whatever. And it's supposed to be like Burning Man. So these people are all in Fair Lake for this. And a reporter is covering the festival. And she decides that she's going to go for a jog. So she goes jogging in the woods. She's wearing this bright yellow April O'Neil jumpsuit. And she runs across Three Finger. And he cuts one of her fingers off. And then she runs into Maynard, who's played by Doug Bradley, Pinhead from the Hellraiser movies. And I thought he did a great job in this movie. I really did. I thought he played an awesome villain. He kind of reminded me of Merle from The Walking Dead. But I thought he did a great job with this. It just didn't make sense why they cast him to play Maynard. And the reason I say that is you can clearly hear his British accent. And he's supposed to be this hillbilly Maynard. And it just didn't work. Even though I thought he did a fantastic job, it still doesn't make sense for that character. Why would they cast him to play that role? So that was kind of confusing right off the bat. But of course he acts like he's trying to help her, and then he kills her with an axe. He cuts her hand off, and it shows the title screen, which I did like. It says Wrong Turn, and then her hand is 5. I did think that was pretty cool. But then the cannibals show up. And it's Sawtooth, One Eye, Three Finger, and he says, "Give me a hand," and one of them picks up the dead girl's hand. So, starts off with a really lame joke, and the costumes were terrible, except for Three Finger. I thought Three Finger looked good. He looks the same in all the movies, but One Eye and Sawtooth look like shit, like bad horror movie costumes, like they were supposed to be werewolves or some crap. I just didn't care for that. So back at Billy's group, we see them getting high. Billy's apparently a drug dealer. He's got ecstasy, weed, mushrooms, so you know this is going to end well. And Julian tells us how the miners got into a fight with the hill people in 1817. The hillbillies massacred the town and ate the bodies. Three Finger is cutting up the reporter's body. Maynard comes home. He's pissed off that they left some evidence behind of the murder. And he says that they're not in some hospital in the middle of nowhere anymore. And I'm glad they referenced that from Wrong Turn 4. But he says he's been doing this for 30 years. He bitch slaps Sawtooth with a wrench. And we find out that they're related somehow. Now this is another thing that's kind of confusing with the timeline here, because in Wrong Turn 4, I looked this up on Wikipedia, on the Wrong Turn wiki, just because I was trying to find out some more information about this Maynard character to make sure it wasn't just me thinking, where the hell did he come from? Why is he so much younger in an era where they're using cell phones? And it doesn't make sense. In fact, it actually mentions that in Wrong Turn 4, the doctor talks about how the three cannibals ate their parents, yet Maynard's supposed to be their father. And Maynard was killed by Dale, Henry Rollins, in Wrong Turn 2. So this has to be set sometime before that movie, and it doesn't matter. You know what? It doesn't matter. The timeline's screwed up, but it's not like it's a great movie to begin with, so that's the last time I'm going to mention it. I hope. But anyways, Billy's group is going to the festival. They're talking about the bands they're going to see playing. One of them is the Cheetah Whores. I thought that was kind of unnecessary. But they're talking about the band, and they see Maynard standing in the road. So to dodge him, they end up wrecking their car. Maynard plays dead even though they didn't even hit him. And they get out of the car. He tries to stab them. They put the boots to him. And before the cannibals can run down to attack, the cops show up. The cops find the drugs, Billy's drugs, in his car, and they arrest them all. One of the deputies stays with the car while he waits for the tow truck, and the cannibals attack him. Now, this is fine, except he has a gun, and Three Finger shoots him twice with arrows. He hits him once, the cop doesn't do shit, he shoots him again with an arrow, and then they run right up on him, cut his ears off, and stab him in the head. He never fires a shot. He never uses his radio. Nothing. So that was terrible. Back at the jail, Billy tells the sheriff that the drugs are his, let his friends go. They had nothing to do with it, so the sheriff lets them go. They go to stay at a hotel. And the sheriff finds out that Maynard's been on the run for murder for the past 30 years. She calls the marshals. They're going to come pick him up in the morning. And he tells her that she won't live that long. So the cannibals pull down a cell phone tower. And all the cell phones lose signal. All of them. Then they go to a power plant and kill the security guard by stringing him up into these wires. And he gets electrocuted. All the power in town goes out. The sheriff can't get any of the deputies on the radios. And we actually see one of the deputies who is having sex with a groupie. Yet another sex scene. He's having sex with this groupie who wants backstage at the festival. So it was really over the top. But yes, the radios don't work, the cell phones don't work, and now the town is out of power. Cruz, Gus, Julian, and Lita get a hotel. Cruz leaves to take Billy some food and gets chased by Three Finger. He stabs her in the street, cuts open her stomach, pulls her guts out. She dies. Julian goes to see Billy. Billy is concerned because Julian said Cruz should have been here before him, and they have no idea where she is, and that's his girlfriend, so he's worried about her. And let's see here. I have no idea what I wrote here. Okay, so Maynard is talking all this shit from his cell about how his boys are coming to get him out. And at first the sheriff is like, Julian, you can't be here, visiting hours are over. But then she decides to let him stay because it's just her, this guy Mose, who she took out of the drunk tank, and Billy. And Maynard is claiming his boys are coming, so she thinks it's okay to have at least one extra pair of hands around. So we get a third sex scene, this time with Gus and Lita. And Lita goes to take a shower. One Eye knocks at the door. So Gus opens the door, thinks he's just some drunk guy trying to find his room, tells him to get lost. Well, he gets another knock, and this time it's Sawtooth. They snatch Gus. They put some type of rope around him, and they drag him out of the room. Lita hears all this. She starts freaking out. She hides, and then when Sawtooth comes in the bathroom, she hits him with this pipe, tries to escape, stabs him in the arm, and she actually gets away. So back at the jail, the sheriff's husband shows up. And they keep talking about how this festival is going to keep her busy. She's going to be busy tonight with all these people they're going to be bringing in who are doing drugs at the festival. Doesn't happen. Not one person ever shows up at this jail. And they keep talking about it, and the entire town it's a ghost town. I mean, there's nothing going on. There's no cars in the street, nothing. So you could say, alright, well, that makes sense, they're all at the festival. All of them, every single person in town. But even if you look past that, you're telling me that the deputies never have one incident happen at the festival? They don't catch anybody with weed? Nothing? They never bring anybody else to the jail? It's just really hard to believe that. So Gus, and her husband leaves to go get some sandwiches. So Gus gets tied to a tree and then tied to the tow truck. And the cannibals get out, they break his legs with sledgehammers, and they dump him in front of the jail. Maynard tells the sheriff that those are his boys, and the sheriff, Julian, and Mose run out to help Gus, but the cannibals run him over with their truck. So the sheriff lets Billy out of his cell and makes him and Julian deputies. She gives them both shotguns. Mose tells the sheriff that there's a radio in the thrift store with a generator. So the sheriff heads to the thrift store. She's setting up the radio, and she hears Three Finger laughing. She comes out of the back room of the thrift store. She's got her shotgun, and she shoots this cardboard cutout that Three Finger put up to distract her. And then she just goes right back to the radio like she didn't hear him laughing. She knows there's a person in there, and it wasn't the cardboard cutout, so you didn't accomplish anything by shooting that. But she completely ignores the fact that she heard someone in there with her. She goes back to the radio. She tries to call for help. She gets this stoner kid on the radio, and he thinks it's just a prank for the Mountain Man Festival, so nothing happens there. She can't get any help. Lita knocks on the door to the jail, and Mose almost blows her head off. And Billy asks her about Cruz, and Maynard says that she's probably being digested right now. Now, this isn't really smart because Billy has a shotgun, and all Maynard's been doing is talking shit about how he's killed their friends, they're all going to die. I mean, he could have snapped and killed him right there. But the sheriff comes back, and Maynard tells them that if they let him out of the cell, he'll call off his boys. They can live. It'll be the end of it. Just let him out. Of course, they refuse. And Billy tells the sheriff that he's going to look for Cruz. He says either lock me up or let me go. So Billy and Julian leave to go find Cruz. And I'm just wondering, where are the deputies at this point? I mean, even if they're all at the festival, I know I keep going back to this, but it doesn't make any sense. Even if they're all at the festival, surely when the power goes out in town or their radios stop working, they would at least drive by the jail. They never show up, not one of them. So Billy and Julian find Cruz's body. Three Finger shows up. They chase after him. It's a trap. They run into Sawtooth and One Eye, who knock them out. And they wake up in a soccer field. And Julian's leg is chained to the goalpost, to the goal, while Billy is buried up to his neck. And Three Finger starts a giant lawnmower. I guess the keys just happen to be left in the thing. And he runs over Billy's head, kills him off. And then he comes after Julian. And he kills Julian by driving over him very slowly, starting with his feet. It was a cool death scene, but it didn't make any sense because this would have been impossible. This chain that's tied to Julian's leg is long as shit. He could have easily ran circles around this lawnmower. It was kind of like that scene in Austin Powers where Michael McDonald is running and he trips and he's about to get ran over with the steamroller, and Austin Powers is like way over here and it takes him forever to get to him. It was like that. Like, this guy had all the space, opportunity to escape the lawnmower, and he just falls and lays there while this thing runs him over. But the sheriff tells Mose to go for help, and Maynard tells Lita that she can save herself if she convinces the sheriff to let him out. She tries, but the sheriff's not going to do it. So Mose takes the police truck and heads for the highway. And I guess the radio works in the truck because he's talking to the sheriff the whole time. But he ends up running over some barbed wire that the cannibals set out in the road, and he wrecks the car. And Lita tells the sheriff that she wants to get out of here and wants her to come with her. And she says that Mose took the only car, but the festival will be over soon and her deputies will be back. So Mose wakes up. The cannibals have him. They put him in this container and they set a fire underneath it to try and burn him alive. Pretty horrific death here. The sheriff hears Mose screaming. She runs out to help him, but the cannibals set fire to the thrift store and blow the place up. So she gets knocked back. And while the sheriff is gone, Lita excuse me. Lita starts to listen to Maynard. And he gets inside her head and he tells her once again, let me out and I'll call off my boys. Well, this time she does listen because she's the only one left in there with him, which was a horrible move by the sheriff. But she has a gun. She's got a gun pointed at Maynard this entire time. She lets him out of his cell, and the first thing he does is he pokes her eyes out with a letter opener, even though she's got a gun pointed on him. So she stumbles out of the jail into the street. The sheriff sees this, and Maynard comes out with the gun. The sheriff shoots him in the shoulder and then throws him back in the cell. So the sheriff decides that she's going to leave and go for help, leaving the blind Lita alone with Maynard in the jail. She's going to leave this poor girl alone with the only person the cannibals are actually trying to get out of jail. That's just a horrible idea. So the sheriff runs out. She sees her husband's truck, and he's set up in this saw trap. So she opens the door, and it causes him to get gutted by these wires. And then Three Finger tries to run her over. He hits the truck. He gets out. She shoots him in the leg. They get into a fist fight. Of course, the bullet has no effect on Three Finger. And they get into a fist fight, and he knocks out the sheriff. So, Maynard is taunting Lita while this is going on, saying all these horrible things he's going to do to her. And she just kind of wanders, stumbles out of the jail into the street. And then we see the cannibals have freed Maynard, and the sheriff's tied up in the cell. And Maynard has some type of trap set up where she has a shotgun pointed at her head, and it's got a wire connected to her feet. And she's got to stand on her tiptoes, and as soon as she sits her feet down, it's going to cause the shotgun to blow her head off. Now the cannibals are going to set fire to the jail. So he says that this is actually like a mercy killing. She can choose to kill herself if she doesn't want to burn alive. So this was pretty twisted. And as the cannibals leave the jail, we do see the sheriff kill herself. She's getting burned and she decides to let the shotgun kill her to escape the fire. And then as the cannibals are driving down the street, they see Lita wandering blindly out there, and she thinks it's somebody there to help her. But she gets in the car, and Maynard says, "Welcome home, Lita," and she starts screaming. So that was pretty sick, and that's how the movie ended. So this was another movie where the cannibals actually kill off everybody. Nobody lives here. But I didn't really like this one very much. I just thought that some of the death scenes were kind of weak. Costumes weren't very good. There was some bad acting, especially Gus trying to sell his legs being broken with a sledgehammer. That was brutal. Just horrible selling there. But I don't know. I mean, I could see why some people would like it because Doug Bradley did do a good job. But if you've watched all 5 of these movies, it just didn't make sense with the storyline. So I didn't really care for this one too much. If I had to rank all the Wrong Turn movies, I'd probably say 2 is my favorite, then 1, then 4, then 5, then 3. I think 3 is probably the weakest movie in the series, but overall, it's an okay series, I guess. I didn't even know until I started doing these videos that they made 5 Wrong Turns. I only remember the first 2, so this is definitely a way of taking something that really wasn't that popular to begin with, the Wrong Turn series, and just pumping out movies to try and make a profit off of it. I think the characters are okay, and they've given them backstories now, and I was just really surprised to find out that these 3 cannibals from the first Wrong Turn movie now have this like franchise, and they got timelines and all this stuff to it. So I don't know, I've definitely seen worse horror movies, but if you're going to watch Wrong Turn, you definitely watch the first 2, and 4 I think is definitely worth watching. But anyways, that's my review of Wrong Turn 5 Bloodlines. I will be back this afternoon with my review of Jeepers Creepers. So I hope you guys liked this video. Leave your thoughts on this movie and this series in the comments below. And thanks for watching. Bye.